The title of today's presentation is Real-World Accounting with Artificial Intelligence, ROI, Benefits and Pitfalls, sponsored by Sage. I'm 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗸𝗶𝚀, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. I wanted to cover a couple of reminders before we get started. Please use the Q&A window on the right side of your screen to send questions to the presenters or to request technical assistance. Keep in mind that refreshing your browser will correct most connection issues. At this time, I would introduce our featured presenters for today's program. With us today, we have Aaron Harris. Aaron is the CTO of Sage and co-founder of Intact. Next, I would like to introduce our second featured presenter for today's program, Kristi Facchini. Kristi is CFO at Auto Claims Direct, an end-to-end claims workflow solution combining technology, data, and people, and servicing the auto and property markets. Last but not least, I would like to introduce our third featured presenter for today's program, Sarah Janowiz. Sarah is the CFO of Cambio Communities, which is a property management company focused on acquiring, revitalizing, growing, and expanding manufactured home communities across the U.S. To learn more about the presenters, please take a look in the speaker bio section of your console. Thank you, Aaron, Kristi, and Sarah for joining us today. I now turn things over to Aaron.
Thank you, Leon, and thanks everybody for joining us, and a special thanks to Kristi and Sarah for joining me. It's not really in the job description of a CFO to do panels like this, so it's always appreciated. To kick things off, I want to get a little bit more of an insight into what each of you are doing with AI in your organizations. So maybe start with Kristi. If you could tell us just a little bit about your company and what you're doing with AI within your organization. And then Sarah, you can just follow on.
Great, thanks, Aaron. So yes, at ACD, we have introduced a little bit of AI in our front-end operational side. We've been in business for 20 years now. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary. We've always been technology forward as it relates to the claims workflow solution. And what that really is it's focused predominantly around the auto. When you have damage to your auto and you call your carrier, they reach out to us to ensure that we get the estimate in place. And the AI component really circles around the damage. So we take pictures or we send out people to take pictures of the damaged area. And what we're using AI for is we're loading those historical pictures, and we're hoping to get information to allow us to use quality control to compare to estimates that might be written in the field, as well as potential fraud detection as we continue to move further down the AI path.
Very cool. Sarah?
So my name is Sarah. Our company is mostly focused on real estate operations. And because of that, we actually have a lot of accounts payable that comes through from many different vendors. A lot of things related to the refurbishment of homes. We have roofs, windows, siding, a lot of appliances, variety of different types of expenditures. And so we've grown very rapidly over the last 2 years. We were formed in late 2020. We originally started off with 2 communities. Now we're almost up to 40. So our experience with AI has actually been in the form of trying to utilize the tools that Sage Intact has rolled out recently with AP automation to help us ensure the same level of timeliness and vendor payment turnaround time that we had when we were a much smaller operation, as we have not necessarily increased our staff. So for us, it's all been about efficiency and trying to utilize the tools that are available for us to continue to run the business.
Right. But it's really interesting to me just how varied the use of AI is becoming within companies. It's my job to be the CTO and to have this, wide view of what we can do. And I have to be honest, I would have never thought to use AI to take pictures of damaged cars to support, claims estimates. That's just a really, really creative use. Now, of course, I'm always thinking about AP automation, and I think that's super cool too. But every time you tell that story, Kristi, I'm just fascinated by it.
And I'm going to go ahead and show everyone the results of the poll.
I thought I was going to be surprised at the answer, but I'm not, to be honest. It does line up with the research that we've done and where our customers have been asking us to automate. But as I said at the outset, I'm constantly surprised and sort of I've had my own mind stretched in thinking about the use cases for AI. And before we move on to talk about some other topics, what I wanted to do is to get you thinking about what the opportunities are, go through at a high level the areas of investment for us at Sage. Some of it's not going to surprise you very much, but some of it might actually be quite surprising. So the first one is not going to surprise you whatsoever, right? It's when you talk about the use of AI, we're almost always talking about digital transformation. AI is an incredibly enabling technology to not just automate the tasks within business, but to really transform the workflows. And as we are powering this digital transformation, there's a big shift in the work required by humans. You'll see lots of headlines and lots of talk in the press about the potential of AI to replace human work. But from everything we've seen, and if you look at the history of each leap forward in technology, fundamentally, what we believe is going to happen is AI is going to elevate human work. And what I mean by that is there's sort of the obvious answer that AI is going to automate more and more of the work that we have to do that's repetitive and redundant. But we can also use AI to create new ways of interacting with technology that are more human in nature, that reflect the types of work that humans are better at, like collaboration, decision-making, strategic analysis. So that's equally a big investment priority for us when it comes to AI. The third area for us, and the wording here is really, really important, is using technology and AI in particular to create trust. Now, everybody talks about the need for technology and AI to be secure, to be ethical, to be mindful of data privacy and data rights. That all is table stakes. What we're really talking about here is using technology like AI to increase the confidence in business. How can we use technology to magnify the work that accounting teams are already doing to create confidence within their business? And then lastly, it's the responsibility of accounting teams to help businesses to make strategic decisions, and to ultimately succeed at their missions if they're nonprofits, or to grow and be successful if they're for-profit organizations. That's not really enough anymore. We have to accept more responsibility in the way we help businesses to grow. And we believe that we can use AI in a number of different ways to help businesses to grow in environmentally and socially responsible ways. And so this is a growing area of AI investment for us. So I want to talk to the panelists for just a minute, changing gears just a little bit. Every company has, or every company that's implemented AI have had that first, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to bring AI into the business. And there's these hurdles to overcome. There's sort of probably anxiety about the skills needed. I would love it if each of you would just take the audience through what was it that caused your organization to take that leap with AI? And then, what were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome in rolling out the AI within your business? And why don't we start with Sarah this time?
Thanks, Aaron. So our experience, has been very much tied in directly with what Sage has been offering. So we were approached about becoming an early adopter for the AP automation, which made the cost component of it kind of a non-issue on our front. There was really no upfront cost associated with this. I do think
saying we should raise the prices.
I do think that that's coming, but so in terms of, some of the hurdles to be able to actually implement AI, I mean, cost is always a factor, right? You have to be able to show that ROI. And so what was nice about what we experienced is that the cost perspective wasn't one of the hurdles that we initially had to overcome. Basically, it was a tool that was offered. And so it was more focused on getting other people to take that leap of faith. There was a lot of, when I initially started the conversations about signing up for a tool that was AI based, there was a lot of distrust, a lot of questions about what the tool could do, what it was capable of doing, what it wouldn't do, how would we handle exceptions. And so some of those things are really hard to answer when you don't really know how AI works. So it was that whole, it's a leap of faith. We have to try it and we basically have to see how it works. And then I can help answer some of those questions, like we can troubleshoot. So that was our experience in terms of trying to get over that first hurdle of getting people to buy into using AI. Now that that's been successful, I would say that there's a little bit more trust and there's more appetite to proceed with other initiatives. But that first one it was a challenge.
Yeah. So, I mean, so before I move on to Kristi, was there something in particular that helped your team to make that leap of faith?
For us, it really came down to ease of use and combined with cost. So because we are a rapidly growing and expanding organization, when I started, I want to say we were processing close to maybe 400 to 600 invoices a month with 1.5 full-time team members. Basically we had 2 team members, but one person wasn't fully utilized on AP. So now that second person is fully utilized on AP, but we're going through 4,000 invoices a month. And wow. So our productivity needed to increase, and we had to look at whether or not it was bringing on more staff or using different tools. I really embrace the idea of the automation just because that seems to be the path that everything is moving towards. So it seemed like a natural sort of fit that we would try it out.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds
that was basically the motivation.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like the team had to see that it was going to make their workload easier. Kristi, how about you? So, what were the hurdles? What were some surprises as you brought AI into your company?
Sure. So for us being, kind of embracing technology and maintaining a research and experimentation budget, which does have tax advantages too. We knew we wanted to be there. The question was, what do we do with it? How do we get started and what do we do with it? So we identified the right initiative that seemed a low-hanging fruit for us and then just started working with it. And then it was questions like, what are we going to use the data for? So while we had an end goal in mind, we weren't exactly sure what the path was going to be to get to that end goal. And, we've taken some lefts and rights, but what it's done is it's educated us more on that process and kind of refined that end goal. And I think that's probably the best way to use AI. I could tell you on the finance side, we haven't jumped off the cliff yet, but it is something that we want to do. We want to continue to move forward with AI initiatives because we see the advantages. There's risk there too. It's helped us understand what we need to be focused on from a risk mitigation standpoint, and then just overall organizational acceptance. Operationally, we're great. Our finance team is a bit more conservative, like many finance teams, across the world. So I think I may have to do a little shove of some of our team members to get them off the cliff and then really start to identify how we can embrace this and how it will improve their workflow and really allow them to elevate their skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, in both cases, it sounds like now that you've gotten through that first project bringing AI into the business, it probably will be easier to bring the next one in because you're sort of starting to get your employees to get comfortable trusting AI to do the work that they're accountable for. One of the things, we do quite a bit of customer research, And of course, we're asking, these types of questions. But one of the challenges that I have when we do this type of research and surveys is that when AI is done right, it's not super obvious. It doesn't necessarily have to be a chatbot that's in your face, that's changing the way you interact. It could be something that's just well integrated into something that's automated. And so I suspect there's some AI going on in parts of your business that perhaps you're not aware of.
I agree. I'm going to go ahead and see those results.
Everybody wants to streamline the month-end close. I was actually, working on a strategy paper for Sage today. I talk about this all the time, so there's nothing private or sensitive here. But one of the things that I will always put into my strategy papers is accounting teams are measured by the time it takes to close the books. When they look at implementing technology, their key consideration, I believe, in most cases is, how will this help me to reduce the time to close? And, I talk about how if we can compare continuous auditing with all of the investments in continuous accounting and automation, we may actually get to a point where we don't really have a month close, where the data is always current and it's always trusted. So this is super, super interesting. I want to go to this trust point because I think it's so vital to any conversation around AI. Both Sarah and Kristi talked about the apprehension, this question about, am I really willing to hand off to AI a task that I'm still accountable for? I talked to a customer a few years ago who would have greatly benefited from some AI we have that automates the bank reconciliation process. Well, this is a small business, cash is everything. I asked her if she was using it, and she said, no, I don't trust it. It had nothing to do with data privacy, it had nothing to do with, is it buggy, does it really work? It was entirely that if she gets it wrong, she's accountable, and it could be detrimental to the business. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about this concept of trust in AI, and what we need to do to really resolve that. But start with maybe expanding the way we think about trust, because it's certainly this concept of trust in technology is always been there. It's been growing over time, but it's certainly greatly expanded now with artificial intelligence, right? So the first is if digital transformation accelerates, right, and we hand off more work to technology, then the significance of trust in that technology only accelerates along with it. We have to be, super honest with ourselves. Those of us who are developing AI capabilities. Done wrong, AI has a real potential to do harm. And so, we have to be, not only careful about how we build AI capabilities, but we've also got to be quite conscious and selective in how we use AI, what sorts of problems that we apply AI to.